mainly the agenda for those of you who are new. Yeah, so during this workshop, what we usually do is we talk about the data set a little bit, and me and Federico just give you a little bit different tips and tricks. Like Federico is going to talk about Figma and design sort of things. I'm going to talk about some of the visuals, some of the things you need to take into consideration while building this. And yeah, you can see in the agenda there's a specific point at the end, right? There's an ebook giveaway supported by Pack. This is for those participants who leave the feedback. Because we said, right, we need your help as well, so we're willing to give you something in return. So by sharing the feedback, you're also participating in the giveaway. And what me and Federico have always agreed upon, if you submit the feedback and if you submit the challenge report, you also get a multiplier on a chance to win this.
A 10%, yeah.
Yes, 10%.
No, that always 100%. Eh? If you talk very good about me and Avis, you got more chances to win. It's as
Absolutely.
simple as that. Okay, so without further ado, do we go ahead, Avis?
Yeah, I guess start sharing the screen and then we can push it live.
Okay, so that's probably one of my nightmares. Can you see my screen?
Give
No.
a sec. Alex has to push it live. There we go. Perfect.
Okay, guys, this is Figma. Figma is the tool I use to prepare all my template. Is the place where I put my ideas. I pick up elements or something that I saw on the net and I cut and paste. From there, I start working on my project. Okay. For this occasion, as an example, I went to Pinterest, but not really. This dash, that one in here, that one, that is a report that a young lady, I love the color palette, the posted in LinkedIn, and I like it so much, the color palette, or the structure that I actually remember to get a screenshot of it, and I say, okay, I'm gonna work on that. But basically, that's what I do. I start taking ideas. The same for some logos, and I'm gonna tell you now where we get the logos and everything, and a little bit of illustration if I need them to. Okay, remember that is very quick. So for you to know, I use a lot of plugins. Okay, in Figma you have plenty of plugins. Be careful because there are so many you are wanted to have all of them. Don't do it. At the end of the day, you have too many and you don't know which one to use. The first one I use, if I right click and go to plugins, is image to color palette. Okay. So if I click on it and now I click, it's already selected, it gives me a color palette. Okay. Based on the image I select. And now if I copy the color to Canva, it will give me the color to Canva. That is my color palette. Okay? So that's how simple it is. Now I have my color palette. Yes? For the logos, as an idea, there is another tool that is called Logo Ipsum. I got Logo Ipsum here. Let me move this to this side a little bit. And I said, well, I like this one. It is there. I position in somewhere, tidy, and it's there. Okay? So that is Logo Ipsum. You have circular, localized, you got curvy, geometrical, you got quite a few of them. The good thing is that because they are SVG, you can see that the color palette, let me pick this one. Here you got the color used, okay, in the logo. So if you want to change that green, you go here, you say, okay, I don't want that green, I want a red. Okay, and you can see it have changed there. You can adapt the logo for your report with the color of your palette. Okay, another good thing about Figma is that you can see this logo with this background. Okay, it's not really good. You cannot see it properly. So you click on the logo and you go to the color. You can see that little round thing that tells you accessibility. In this case, it's okay. Let me try to go to another one and see if it does give me the same. Okay, it's telling me it's okay, but that is because I haven't actually changed it. But you see that it's double A and a tick, that is okay. You see like a stop or a round warning sign is that it cannot be seen properly. Okay, so that is another thing. This, again, that is an image. I cannot touch the image. I can do nothing about it. That is an SVG. I got all the color that are in the SVG here for me to change. I don't know which one is going to be the one, the trousers. Okay, again, you can get this illustration, bring it as an SVG, and change the color of your illustration so it match, okay, your report. That's normally my first page, the storyboard or the mood board, where I put all my ideas. Okay, everything you pick out that you like, you just throw it there, and then you start working with them and are organizing them. I use two plugins, the image to palette and the logo Ipsum. Okay, that is, let me group that with me. This is the color palette I'm gonna use. I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna copy and I go to my components. And I'm gonna paste it here. I don't like that distance. Let me 0. Well, that is okay. So that is my color palette, guys. I need to get some variations. I want to have 100%, and 80%, and 60%, and create one thing that we call color style. So for that, I'm gonna use another plugin, and you will see how easy it is. Tailwind CSS color generator. I'm gonna pick up this color. I'm gonna pick up the head code, copy, I'm gonna paste it here. Okay, and now I have from the 500, that is this color, I got the shade, okay, from the main color to white, and the things from the main color to dark, to black. Okay, and here I'm gonna give you a name, not a name, a family name. I'm gonna call it primary, and a slash there. Okay, and I'm gonna call it orange. And now I'm gonna say create a style. Okay, and I'm gonna do the same with this color. Let me pick up that one. Remember, there is a short version of what is normally this. I'm gonna give it the color, primitive. I don't like border, so I'm gonna put gray, dark gray, for example. And I create styles. Okay, and where are the styles? I show you in a minute. Okay, now if I'm bringing any element, you know what happened? I cannot see height. Yeah, got it. If I bring, that is where I go all the elements and everything inside. I'm gonna get rectangle. And now you will see that if I go here, let me get out. You got the color palette. Can you see the styles in there? I call this primitive, and they're supposed to be primary, not primitive. So now you have a collection of colors. Okay, you can order in the way you want. And now you just click in there, you go in there and you say, okay, I want the orange 500. Okay, these colors are there for me. Okay, they are safe. You can, or your variation, at the end of the day, you're gonna take this color, put in a JSON file individually to bring it to Power BI. Okay, but this way I have a better representation on what I'm going to do. Okay, in my project. Okay, and I carry on doing that with all the colors. Okay, then I'm gonna do another thing, guys. I'm gonna get another little text. Just bear with me. I'm gonna say bottom. I'm gonna make it. You need to stay with me. The Control A, and that will be a NATO layout now. Yeah. Leave it that. It's already an auto layout. Yes. That is what I want. If allow me to do this, right click and add auto layout. Okay. The field is what I'm looking for. I'm gonna do a, let's say, now let me get one from the palette. 500, and the size, let me put in 16, for example. Okay, we are, and I'm gonna give it some corners. Where are the corners? Here. And I think 10 will be okay. And that is one button. Oh. That is one button. Guys, and that's what I do now. I move this one to there, and now Control D. We normally have 4 stages in Power BI. Okay, default, hover, press, selected. Okay, the way I do it, I normally start with the lightest color. Okay, as a default, and when it's selected, it will be the darkest color. So it's clearly that, hey, I am selected. So I'm gonna come here, and there, no, there, sorry, there, I'm gonna say 20%. Okay, we have to change the color of that. Here, I'm gonna say 40%. Here, I'm gonna say 80%. Okay, and now we have different color with different variations. And that is the way I do my button collection. Why? Give me a representation. Okay, and I will do them same with different colors. And the frame is, yeah, let's get this one. Okay, guys, I do the same. Okay, I go here, frame, look for my colors. I look for the right color, let's say 700. I look for my color, let's say 500, and let's say 200. Okay, think about that. You're gonna make a collection of 3, 3, 4, something like that. That is from work. That is for my real life work. So that will be my buttons, my color palette. I will bring a collection of icons, okay, and I start working on that. That is the idea. There is nothing you can do with that. It's just for you to get a visual representation of how these are gonna look, okay, in Power BI when you set them properly. Okay, and yes, as Christopher Warner says, with the time, you prepare a proper design Power BI system, a mini design. There is not much you need to do. That will be actually ideal. But again, guys, that is work in preparation. Okay, another thing that I can do, let me bring another Remisicon, guys, icons. Okay, that is another plugin. Let me get to quickly 2 plugins. That one, let me put that together so it grows up. And let me put that in, what color do I get? Let's look for the orange. Okay, another thing we can do when we have our collections, okay, of icon, you go here, okay, and you click in there, and now it becomes a component. What is a component? A component is something that you can reuse. When you do that and you go to access, you will see the icon there. So now you can, from there, you can throw it all many times you want to. If you have a collection of icons, okay, and you use this to work it out in your report. Important, this is the father or the mother. So if I change this will also change because it's, can you see? But if I change this, the father will not change. Okay, for you to understand a little bit about how components work. Yes, you can see in this presentation, you go color style, you go primitive, you go blue, sorry, it's in Spanish, light blue, you go aqua, and you go violet. And if I go to access, okay, you go all these assets in there. Think about everything that you need just to use and reuse, okay, in a place that you just can need to drag it, and it is there. Let me do this. And of course, you can give it color you want to. You go here, you say blue. It's azul, sorry, it's Spanish. You can go here, and there you go. Okay, now let's go to what I really like and I normally do when I'm doing my challenges or a quick report on anything. This is another page. Okay, this is where I create my background, my template. Okay, I normally work on 16:9. Remember, it's very important because there is something here that for me, okay, is quite good. That is normally the size I work in Power BI. Yes, it's 1980, 1920, 180. If you are using the default, make sure you put, okay, the right measures in there. Otherwise, what I'm going to show you in a minute will not work. Okay, so let's go and create our header rectangle, guys. I put it there. I give it the size. How much is that tool? Normally 80 will be okay. And I'm gonna look for a color. I know there is a color, some color there, so I'm gonna go for. No, I'm gonna go a gray, a nice gray. No, I don't like that. Oh, problem with me when I get into this. Okay, think about that. My header, guys. Do we go an icon? we are imagining here. Yes, guys, I'm gonna change the color. 500, control copy, control B. Ya tengo dos a este. This one I'm gonna turn it around. That is too big. 40 and 40. Okay, think about they are your navigation icons. Okay, you got your logo that you will put in there, and now we have the canvas. Here is where we are gonna put our visuals. Yes. So for that, I use another plugin. It's called a split shape, and I want to see you what it does. Yes. I should have done that before. I'm gonna put that in his place, and I'm gonna think I want only one column. No, I want 5 columns. Yeah, leave it like that. And I have broken, okay, this shape in 5. That will be my KPI, guys. I'm gonna change the color to white. I'm gonna put a little stroke in black, 0.5. Okay, so we can see it. I don't want that color. What about that one? Yeah, kind of. Okay, it's very, very light. Let me see the color a little bit darker. Okay, so guys, now we have another thing that I do. If I check that this is close to the corner 34 and I go here 25, I'm gonna put that 20. Guys, there, 20. Okay, and that I'm gonna take it to the end, and there here the position I'm gonna say, look, I click in it, minus 20. Okay, I'm gonna select them, and I'm gonna say, okay, can you distribute horizontal? So that is my KPI. Think about it, working fast. Okay, so now I need, let's say I need, all we checking 29, that will be minus 9. Color, I can come here and say is this color, and it have a stroke that we will put in a minute. Actually, I can come here and say copy properties, paste properties, and now it have the little stroke. Now think about, you want to do 3 verticals. Right click, plugin, split shape. I want 3 columns. It's gonna be a little bit tight. I got 3 columns. Now I'm gonna bring, sorry, that was me going too fast. I'm gonna bring that here. I'm gonna put it here to the guy, and I'm gonna go again and I say split shape, and this time I want 1 column, but I want 2 rows. And now you have your background template. Okay, this is very fast, this is very quick. When you work it out, and you go better defined template or collection of templates. That is the base. That is the one I work to do everyone else. But basically, that is how we work template at work. Okay, you can see all the colors in there. Verde, you got lila, all the branding colors, blue, light blue, aqua, green, red, everything organized. That's for my finance report. I'm starting now from the human resources. At the moment, I only got that. I got all the colors. I don't need any colors. I don't need the I don't need the logos because I already have them there. It will be for me to throw it there, and I got my logo and put in the right place, and I will do the same here. So remember, one page to create your ideas. One page to start creating your button, your color palette, your iconography, your access and components. Okay? And another page where I will prepare all my template, my background. Okay? My colors are there, so I know I can pick up the colors. If I want that in a different color, I can here, I want 500. Okay? I don't need to look for the color anymore. It's there, yeah, waiting for me. Yes? And when I'm happy with, I just click A. By the way, main page, you can change the name there, so you have everything well organized. And the same here, you can say bottom right visual. Okay, if I can write properly. Okay, so you have, it's not bottom, it's bottom. Sorry, I'm rushing, something like that. Okay, you have everything properly organized. Yes, and the same in every page. When I go everything, I go to the main page, and I go to export, and I click on export, and it will tell me, you want PSG? I think I am in the middle. You cannot see me with my head here. Well, at the end of this line here, down there, you have the export button. You click on export, okay, and you have the option to export this as a PNG or SVG. There is GPG and PDF, but hey, I recommend you, there is a bit of diversity of an SVG or a PNG. I am going to lately for a PNG because sometimes a SVG is a more perfect document and bring some little problems behind. And when you just download it, you save it in a folder, open your Power BI file, go to background, load the add fit, and you have your template. The bit that I really love is that if I click there, okay, can you see the position in there? 20 and the height is 114. Now, if you click on a KPI card in Power BI and you say go to 20, 140, it will fix. Perfect. 100% perfect in there. They know there is no need for you to start moving around anymore. It's not in the right place. They are not properly distributed. Okay, that is all perfect. They got 15 here, and I think they got 15 here. Okay, you get the proper, everything is properly aligned. Another thing that is important, you might at the end of the day not wanting to have any of these. Okay, everything is placed in Power BI. You just come here, get everything off, export it again. You know that everything is in the right position. Okay, you just load the Power BI, load the PNG to the Power BI, fit, and everything will be in the right place, properly aligned, how it's supposed to be. So that for me very, very fast because I only have about 25-30 minutes. Avis is up to you now.
To me, Federico. Explain to me, Federico. How am I supposed to follow up on this now, right?
You
Talking
need
about
to
visuals
look.
now is going to be very boring.
Sorry, no. Come on. That was a lot of people ask me for it, and I think it had to be done with more time, better explained to see a proper result. But I got this allocated time. But I think, guys, you get the idea what you can do, and believe me, because we are doing template for Power BI, you don't need to learn the whole Figma thing. You learn a number of things that will help you to prepare these backgrounds and this color palette or whatever you want to do, and that will be enough. And there are enough plugins, okay, for not driving you crazy. And for me, one more, the idea that clicking on an object here give me the position in Power BI, that's fantastic. I don't need to be moving left, right anymore or dragging the object to see if it is in the right place.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just one tip
so
about
that's
this,
it.
guys. Whenever you are working with positions, make sure you remove the padding from Power BI side as well, because it has additional
Yeah,
padding within those visuals. Otherwise, trust me, it's gonna drive you crazy trying to position things when it's just purely impossible.
yeah, it get in there with the padding, then you can adapt because normally I like to give 10 padding all over the places. Yeah,
Yeah,
me
then
is
it's fine.
10, 10, 10, 10. But still, because the OJ square is there, it's going to be, sometimes I have to take the padding off, 0, 0, because it's necessary.
Yeah.
Okay, but the great advantage for me of all of this is that positioning that it drove me crazy. I was trying to place everything in the right place, having the same distance from here to there, from there to there, from there to there, and vice versa at the top.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, icons, guys. You don't put the icon there. You put the icon there. What happened? You have to use a button, okay, to give it some action Power BI. So it's that for you to work it out.
Yeah.
Okay, Rafa, un abrazo desde el Reino Unido. Es my friend Rafael González, a master in Power Query and an MVP.
There we
Avis,
go.
all for you now. I'm gonna stop sharing. I talk too much.
One quick question that we can answer, I think, very quickly without the Q&A session. The tool that you were using was Figma, correct? I was
It's
not wrong.
Figma, it's Figma,
It's
and
Figma.
yeah,
So yeah, that's a one quick question that we can get out of the way. All right, let me share my screen and talk about a few things from my side as well. So I think there, when it comes to the data set that you have here, is I want you to actually take a closer look at it and not take it at face value. What I mean by it is one of the things that I'm very certain that I'm going to see in some of the submissions is if they do not look at the data is going to be the following, right? If we look at the data, we have a column that says currency. Where it was right here. So there's euro transactional transactions based on euro and transactions based on USD. What I can guarantee is going to happen, people are just going to be summarizing the amount, which means that, well, it's going to be incorrect, right? You can't really sum up euro and USD. There has to be a
use
conversion rate. So one of the things that you can do, of course, is just take the current transition amount, or actually the currency transition course. So you don't have to worry about, okay, but what if it happened in a different date? I get it, in real life you would worry about it, right? Based on the data, what was the current conversion rate and everything. In the dataset challenge, don't get too caught up on it. Just use the one that's currently available online. Easiest way to find it. Just be simple, don't be fancy. Open up Google, USD to euro, that's your conversion rate. That's it. Don't worry about it too much, right? We're not going to be looking at if you lost a euro or not. So that's all fine. So that's one of the things, right? Whenever you have these transitions, make sure you apply them. Whenever you're creating things, not everything looks very complete. So this is what I did, right? I essentially created first two different measures. I created two calculate measures, which essentially return me the total amount of euros and the total amount of USD. The measure is almost exactly the same. The only thing that's changing is I'm looking for a specific currency. Once I have done that, you can see the total amount, if I would just sum everything up, would be this one. But if I take into account the currency transition, by selecting a specific currency, I'm telling to which conversion rate I'm following. So either I'm converting all the values to USD or I'm converting everything to euro. This is going to be important for those cases where, for example, you have to, let's say, do the analysis in US or you have a subsidiary in Europe. So those situations can happen in real life as well. It's not like it's something that we just purposely wanted to, kind of mess with you. So don't worry about it. But yeah, take that into account. That's one of the things. The other thing that I would say, whenever you look at this data set, you're going to notice that in some cases Basically the charts are following typical distribution, which means that nothing is too high, nothing is too low, everything's kind of okay, and there's average split about everything. The one thing that we constantly tell you guys, and we want you to not forget about this, we're giving you the base model. What you do with the data set is up to you. You can add additional dimensions to enhance it. You can change the numbers a little bit. So, for example, if the story that you're building means that, hey, I want to make sure that credit card is the most used payment method or the transactional type, right? What you just do is create a DAX measure and say, hey, if the selected value is credit card, I want you to multiply the amount by 1.2, 1.3, I don't know, whichever it was. If it's something else, multiply it by zero point 0.8, for example, to lower the numbers. Play around with them. You're not limited to what's only given to you. The original data set is the base. That's it. However you interpret it, however you transfer it, whatever helps you to tell the story. Of course, try not to, completely delete it and leave only 10 rows, whereas there's nothing to analyze. That would be kind of boring as well, but you're more than welcome to play around with it. The same thing as there's probably going to be some anomalies. What you do with them is up to you. You can remove the anomalies, you can convert them to something based on averages or something like that. It's up to you. So these are some of the few things. Like, for example, because the one thing where everything is very noticeable, right, is, for example, if you look at the distribution on the donut chart, if you look at the distribution here, super interesting graphs to look at, right? They're telling an amazing story where everything is just picture perfect. Now, a donut chart should look something like this, for example. Not this. This is a very bad use case for a donut chart in that sense, because everything is almost identical. And even in those cases, you can see that a bar chart wouldn't really help us because the value differences are so relatively small. You could theoretically, with the columns or bars, do the following. You could go to the value axis, depending on whether it's the columns or it's the bars, it's going to be either the x or the y axis. But I could say that instead of zero line using visible, visible means you're starting from zero and go up to the value. You could say that I want to use floating. So floating essentially takes the min max values that are visible in the current view. It's a good approach. It allows you to kind of showcase the difference, but at the same time, the value of this um, value disproportion is also noticeable here, because how it seems is that deposit is almost half of the withdrawal, whereas in reality there's only like, let's say, 17 deposits. There's only like 200k difference, right? So it is something that you can theoretically play around with, but it's something you have to pay a lot of attention to when it comes to actual analysis. If you know that your numbers are going to be very close to each other, for example, you're going to be looking at different trends across averages across the time when things go from 15 to 16% and always around that side. If you're just going to have it on a visible scale, well, it's just almost going to be a flat line, like very little deviations. Where it's a floating line, you're going to have the differences a lot more noticeable, but the user needs to understand how these scales are being generated, right? So you have to play around with sort of a good looking visual, which gives you an insight, but not going to the aspect of dysmorphing the data and kind of changing the whole understanding of what it's telling you. So it's just something to keep in mind. You can play around with these, but do explain it to the user then if you do so. For the data set itself, I think this one's going to be very reliant on field parameters because there's a lot of different values that you can use. So, for example, you can use amount. There's also going to be late fees, credit card fees, insurance fees, and so forth. So, all of those can be different measures. I could utilize them within the chart. So, for example, I'm using a parameter, so total amount. I can switch to fees. Some of them are using it, some of them aren't. I'm just playing around with values. So, you allow the user to kind of transition between those different views, right? You don't necessarily have to always create a separate page for things. You can use field parameters as well.
Avis,
Yeah, go ahead.
can I something? Sorry, on the bottom right, uh, there's a column chart, a bar chart, a bar chart. Can you
Hmm.
put product instead of transaction, please? Because I know there is a little bit of skew on the data set. Buying products is not
This one?
Try product subcategory and see what happens. No, no. There is a bit of flatness in the data set, and I wanted to check it out. That is perfect. That is perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
But yeah, you can come across those flatness sort of situations, and that's where I would say just play around with the values. Increase some of them, lower some of them, so either multiply or divide by something. If you're utilizing field parameters, don't get too discouraged if you come across, for example, something like this, right, where you basically have a chart that doesn't really showcase you anything. This is just because Power BI by default sometimes triggers that the field is basically a textual field, so it's giving you the first value. In this case, it's giving you a text. All you have to do is make sure you switch to the show values of selected fields rather than showcase the field itself. Once you do that, the chart is going to come to life and you're going to be able to use field parameters to switch around. So that's just something to kind of take a closer look into. What else? For different types of analysis, I think in this report, a timeline is going to be one of the crucial elements. Um, Either combo, bar chart, donut chart, or pie chart could be used for categorical analysis, but just make sure that it has a meaning so it doesn't, look like this. Because, for example, even if I go down, if you have like 5 levels where everything looks the same, it's going to be very boring, right? So just play around with the data a little, modify it a little bit. So that's one of the things. A map visual can definitely be used because we also have a longitude and latitude. So, for example, if I create a map right here, we have the branch longitude and latitude. There we go. So everything's happening here. And then, of course, I can start to play around with those different properties. I can, of course, use also the field parameter here if I utilize the parameter as a slicer here. And then use the same parameter also for the value. Again, show values of selected fields. We can see there's one issue right here, for example, with the number because it's going outside of the node. So node settings, and actually set the value label to be outside. So it's just a little bit easier to notice and spot. Always make sure you look at the chart, right? Play around with different cross filtering selections, with different, for example, also views, different screen brightnesses, different environments. Always take that in consideration as well. But yeah, I can switch through these and see, for example, okay, if I want to focus on transactional count, I can see which branches are having the most transactions. What about the amount? Looks the same, but there's slight differences in the scenario. Like, for example, we can see in Madrid, right? There's a lot of transactions more, like an average amount, whereas total amount, it seems like that's the least amount of hotspot. So playing around with these can also give you different insights. What else? One thing that actually a lot of time we had questions about in the previous challenge, so this is just something I wanted to cover as well. If you create a field parameter, and if you decide that there's something more that you want to add to it, you don't have to recreate the field parameter again. Now, what I'm saying about this, let's say I'm going to go to modeling, new parameter fields, and I'm just going to go ahead and banking data and say that, hey, I want the total amounts, credit card fees, insurance fees, total late payments. So this is what I initially create, right? I say create. I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to switch out the parameter also in the visual. So this is now parameter 3. Do name them better than I do, because otherwise, whilst I'm doing this, this is fine. One day later, it's going to be a chaos. So name them what they actually represent.
Yes,
Exactly.
you
But yeah, so I can see, for example, I can switch between these. And then let's say suddenly, if I go to the, do I have it open? I think I have it open right
guys
here.
fill out the form. If you fill out the form, you can get a free pack book.
Yep, yep, yep. Uh, Challenges, FP20 analytics. So the moment when I decided that I want to have another value was I was going through the brief. Don't forget the brief tells you what's within it. But for example, you can see that there is one. that tells you what are the dominant transactional types by volume and value. So there's a value and there's count. All right, cool. I did the count as a measure, but now I need to recreate the field parameter. No, you can go
No.
to the parameter. The parameter is a DAX formula. Just copy the last row, understand the logic behind it, add a comma because you're adding a new one, right? And just say that this is the display name. So I can say that this is going to be total, not total, but transaction count. And the value is going to be coming from transaction count. I have it somewhere around here from my measure. What did I break?
I can't see very well, but it should not break. I think it's okay. The same number 3, number 4.
Yep, that's one thing. Increase the index, and also don't forget and remove any additional arrays. So now I got transaction count here as well, and I can start utilizing it. If you want it to be the first one, for example, play around with the index numbers, right? So increase the numbers up and down, just allowing you to move these up and physically moving them up or down is not going to change anything. You have to change the index to
The
sort
number,
number
yes.
basically. So yeah, that's another thing that I would play around with, because I think in this report you do have a lot of different dimensions that you can go through.
And I think even the name of the major total amount, if you want to say revenue, you can change the name in that
Yeah, yeah,
red bracket,
absolutely.
and you just change the name, make it shorter, and put a you better one for your user.
Yes. Because, for example, you can see when I create measures, I use the underscores instead of spaces. But for display names for the end user, he doesn't care about the logic of code and anything, right? So I'm just going to say that actually all the underscores are going to be spaces. Well, I'm doing this the old fashioned way of just replacing the values, but you get the point, right? So now all the underscores are going to be transitioned into spaces, which is something that they're more used to. You can see the underscores have disappeared. So the first part is the display name. Afterwards is the value that you're utilizing, and then you have the order on how it's going to be displayed within the slicer. If nothing has been selected, the chart is always going to take the first value that's available. If you have a chart that does not allow you to, for example, do the following, combine two of them, make sure you force the chart to be a single selection. Do not create situations where the user can intentionally break things, because trust me, they will. You can hope for the best, but you have to be ready for anything.
Oh yeah, but that is nothing. Don't worry. It happened to everybody.
Oh yeah,
Okay, so it happened to you. Just try to find out what is going on and fix it.
exactly. It doesn't matter if you created just 10 reports or hundreds of reports. Me and Federico, I think, are still running into this from time to time. We just forget about one specific edge case, which the end user, oh yeah, but I just wanted to do it this way and it doesn't work. And you're like,
Well,
okay, yeah,
you're
I
looking
get
for
it.
the comma. We are looking for the comma that is missing. It was a missing comma.
Yep. So don't worry about it too much, right? This it's all about learning and making sure that you actually fix those issues. Don't get too offended by if something doesn't work. And the one thing that I can always tell to developers is do not get in love with your work as the report itself. It's gonna change. You're gonna have to rework it 10 times. There's gonna be different requests, additional requests. So treat it as a job. Do it respectfully to the best of your ability, but don't get in love with
It's,
it.
it's not your report, guys. It's not your report, your customer report. So
Yeah,
remember, he like pink and gold color is your customer. That's what he like. It might be horrible to you, but remember, it's not your report. You created it, but it belongs to your customer. And they have the
absolutely.
upper hand in put together there what they want.
You're just the engine that made everything work.
Try to, yeah.
All right. Any questions in the chat? So yeah, anything you want to ask us, guys, go ahead. We're more than well happy to answer it. If of course it's possible to do during the session, right? If the answer doesn't require like 50 minutes of explanation. So we're happy to answer those. Um, if not, then Don't forget also that there is a possibility to ask questions also in the FP2 Analytics community on LinkedIn. That's one of the options. You can also ask questions to webinars at zoomcharts.com. And you also have a option to schedule the one-on-one sessions where we can discuss any questions that you might have as well.
All right, 1 second before that, there is a question from
Yeah.
Christopher. I don't know, guys. You know, Christopher, you do know you are wasting your time not try to connect with him. He has been a long-standing MVP. He has his own YouTube channel, so please go ahead and connect and subscribe. There are a number of ways uh, to transfer that. And as I told you before, it will be the template as a PNG or SVG. When you transfer that to an SVG or a PNG, there are a number of Power Things, the things makers. I think Power BI tips have one, and there is another one actually that generate things that you can actually add that to the thing. Okay, and when you load the thing into Power BI, all your pages in the report will have the same background template. That is no ideal because you want one page with one template and another page with another template. And I guess I'm sure that you can actually just open the JSON file and put that template within the JSON file of a Power BI report. What I do most often than anything, I'm not a techie, is just PNG or SVG and load it into Power BI directly.
Yep. And if everything else fails, right, there's always the good old option of doing things manually. So now you have your list of colors. So one of the things that you can do if you do not trust any external tools or something like that, that there are different situations, right? One of the things you can do is go to Power BI Desktop, up top, view, here are your themes, drop down, customize current theme, and you can change those primary colors right here. So you can at least create the initial color palette and use that at least as the base, right?
That correctly. When I go on my Figma, I can't here and change the color because the other way is the JSON file and all the hassle. So I do that
Yeah,
despite having the Figma file and everything.
because it doesn't really, you don't always have to complicate things, right? Sometimes it's just very simple to change the colors. And if you create the JSON basically by customizing the colors, right? The good thing is as soon as you change anything here, right now, this option becomes available. So save current theme. So you can save that color palette and just store it in your folder and just have a library of different color palettes.
Correct. Notes in map.
I need to
ABs.
understand how map visual nodes can help with drill down analysis. I would probably say I need to have a bit more insight on what exactly you mean by this, but the way on how the nodes initially help you is by the clustering capability as such. That's one of them. For example, if you go to the node settings, you can see here there's a property called cluster node distance. By increasing it, you're essentially increasing the radius from where it's being brought in together. I can also enable aggregated node highlight, so it kind of tells me where these nodes are coming from. The problem with this is since it's so scarce, you can see there's basically a very small line highlighting it because there's no real area around it. So in this case, it wouldn't be very beneficial. But the benefit of that clustering is that if you zoom in closer, you can see these are starting to split apart. So that's one thing that you can utilize here. The other thing that you can do here is if you're utilizing, for example, a transactional type or something like that, you can use the same principle of having a value on top of the node and also having a pie chart on top of it. In this case, like I said, right, I would probably do this with something that's a little bit more interesting because otherwise everything here looks exactly the same. Let's say product category, maybe. Let's go down, see if there's a better split. There's only a single product category selected here. Well, current, not currency. Well, currency could be used. Yeah, at least a little bit better, right? But that's one of the ideas. Alternatively, in this case, since everything is a single region, you don't necessarily have to use, but you can use shape layers and define different sectors that you want to analyze things by. So you can have additional conditional formatting there or things like that.
Can you lasso?
Yeah. So
Okay,
you can
I
also
think
create
that is
your
a
custom shapes. And one thing that we actually recently added is for these lasso shapes, you can right click and also define which shape layer they belong to. So for example, I can say that this one belongs to layer 1, save it. And for layer 1, I'm going to say that this is a lasso layer. And it's only going to be available from 0 to level 3, for example. Now to understand what level I'm on, I'm going to go to the toolbar. I'm going to reload the chart. So now I'm on level 6, you can see the shape layer is not here, but if I zoom out to level 3, which is going to kind of be obsolete because the nodes are too big. Fine, let's fix it quickly from 6 to 9. Go to level 6 or 5, it's not here. Level 6, it shows up. If I get close enough and after 9, it also going to disappear. So you can control the zoom behavior as well for these shape layers.
okay. It's 2:03 Avis. I think it's time to pack up. I have to
Yeah,
go back to work. Any more questions, Alex? Sandra?
no, I
Nope.
think we're good. All right, guys. So feedback forms, 10% increase in the chance of winning the challenge. Absolutely believable. Uh, and
Thank
other
you
than,
for attending.
yeah,
Any comment, please leave it in the chat in LinkedIn. Be alert, there are more things coming from ZoomCharts and FP20 Analytics. So be alert.
absolutely. And we'll see you in the top 5 announcement.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.